What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Faqs Voice, and you're here for another Faqs Project. Thank you for being here. We're here to talk with Emeka Nkwo about Vibrant for Wise Acre Comics. Thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, when we're talking about this particular comic, and for one, congratulations in advance because you've already pretty much surpassed your goals. So this
Thank
comic
you.
is going to hit everybody in the hands. You
Mhm.
decided to go with the storyline of a family dynamic,
Yes.
and pretty much a la Young Justice, Teen Titans. Uh, where did this inspiration come from in the beginning?
Oh man. It came from a lot of places actually. Of course, the personal experience, right? Story-wise, design-wise, and powers, I guess, or the world and universe I created. Definitely like Young Justice,
Mhm.
for sure. Huge fan of that show. Teen Titans as well, as you said, and then Static Shock is another one. Static Shock. Mostly because it was one of the shows of its time that had a black male lead
Yeah.
as a superhero, and a white sidekick, right? You never really saw that. I don't even really think we see that nowadays, anyways, either.
True.
But yeah, that made me feel powerful as a kid, something that I could see myself as. Like I can be in those shoes, right?
Mhm.
Like even nowadays I'll watch like a show, and I'll little tangent, but nowadays I'll watch a show, or even like back when Arrow was live, I'm like, oh, I can't cosplay as Arrow because he's white.
Mhm.
But then once like John Diggle put on the hood, I was like, oh, okay, all right, that character is now unlocked. Now I could
Gotcha.
see myself as that character, sort of thing. So yeah, Static Shock, Young Justice, Teen Titans. Um, Another one, weirdly enough, Avatar.
Mhm.
And by that, because you're probably like, where in the world does Avatar come to play? So bending. My
Okay.
favorite bending is fire bending. And so I thought I have to have a character with fire bending. But then when I was kind of going through and writing everything down, putting down the outline, creating the characters, I thought I'm going to have characters who are going to be as strong as Superman. So I asked myself, it, is fire going to be able to go up against somebody with, the likes of Superman?
Mhm.
No. So then I'm watching Justice League. I'm rewatching it, and I remember the one episode where Superman is fighting Captain Atom because he's going off of like his like military orders versus the Justice League orders.
Mhm.
And so he's, fighting Superman at the time, and he's using his energy. And I thought, oh, okay, he's not beating Superman, but he's definitely getting some licks in. And I thought, all right, maybe I got to go with energy instead of fire. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how I created the main character, and then I just kind of spread it out through there.
Definitely. Now, to bring up a little bit that I saw from your project overview,
Yeah.
the Invincible reference. Now, bringing into the accord of the family dynamic that we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
the almost cycle of the similarities between like Mark and his brother Oliver, as opposed to what you have here with the brother and sister combo of
Yeah. Yeah.
Chris and Sarah.
Mhm.
If am I saying that correctly?
No, yes, yep.
Yeah.
Chris and
Yep.
Sarah.
So Sarah gets her powers first,
Yep, she shows them first. Yep.
and instantly, almost in reminiscent to how Oliver gets his right away, as
Yeah.
opposed to Mark, who got his almost like through puberty, which was around
Yeah.
like the time that he was like turning into a teenager and everything like that. Chris
Exactly.
takes a while, and almost, of course, he's drawn the ire of his father throughout throughout this entire book, to where he can't wait to summon or force his way into the power set of
Yeah.
having some type of powers,
Mhm.
because his family is completely set up this way. But
Yeah.
yet he sees, and it's not even really like mirrored in jealousy or anything like that, but Sarah just gives him the business because she got her powers first.
Yeah. Exactly.
So how did you feel about like coming up with that in the beginning?
So that's the part where it came from the personal experience.
Hmm.
Uh, I have a younger sister,
Hmm.
6 years younger, and she was incredibly gifted. I mean, when compared to me, when it came to like academics, right? My sister was invited to programs you couldn't buy yourself into. She spent like a week-long science program, science summer program at Stanford.
Mm,
university, and that was a program she was invited to because of her academics. I had never been. I had struggled to get like A's and D's, and she was straight A's, at all times. Um, and because of that, there was that favor she received, right? She was definitely like my father's little princess, I always like to call her.
hmm
Um, and it took a bit of an impact on me, because it always felt like I had something I had to prove that much more. Um, and so that's where this I really try to bring that into Vibrant. Yeah, it has that parallel to Invincible, but this is definitely more like my personal story that I brought into it. And yeah, that's kind of how. And there's a reason why her her superhero name becomes Spoil,
hmm
and everything like that, and kind of why I went the way and the route with the family that I did, um, because even though I did take it, from my personal experience, there are certain things I wanted to change up because I felt if I did it too too much, if it was too real, it would have been a completely different story and probably wouldn't have been, you know, able to fit in a superhero genre. Or Vibrant probably wouldn't even be the hero.
mm,
Everybody would probably be questioning, like, well, how is he the hero? This makes no sense.
right.
Um, but yeah, so the family dynamic came from true personal experience. Yeah, I myself have a younger sister. She was incredibly gifted from the start, and always, gained favor with our dad. When it came to me, it was a struggle.
Mm. So in this particular story, let's talk about the dad
Let's do it.
because an interesting twist, as you may put it, he starts off as a whole particular another person,
Mhm.
alter ego
Yep.
wise,
Yep.
as invulnerable,
Hmm.
and yet evolves into this other character called the foreman,
Hmm.
which I'm pretty sure the cliffhanger of how this story evolves
Hmm.
tends to bring forth why this is pretty much happening.
Yeah.
So when you're working your way to becoming like the number one hero as
Hmm.
invulnerable, and yet all of a sudden your whole dynamics, the heel turn, as they say in wrestling, starts to happen. But yet in this type of instance, it's almost like a whole bit of corruption has started to happen with
Yeah.
his character.
Hmm.
Can we explain this?
Yeah. Again, taking from personal experience, but warping it a little to fit in this universe. Um, I kind of felt like my father was a certain way,
Hmm
um, to a certain point in my life. And then it kind of felt like everything kind of changed. I won't go into detail with what caused that, but I definitely kind of felt that needed to be the case here. And I thought what would be the perfect way to kind of show and display that in this story. Um, and then I thought corruption, right? And how does one who's the number one hero get corrupted? Money. I mean, he has a whole family, right? Like that's
Yeah.
not really something he cares about. He's the number one hero.
Yeah.
Money's not gonna really do anything. He has the popularity, he has the calling and all that, and the power already. That's where I kind of started to play with it a little bit because I thought, how do you corrupt the person or the man who has everything?
Mhm.
By proving he doesn't, or by showing that he doesn't. And by that I mean he isn't as powerful as he assumes he is, or as everybody's made him out to be. He's definitely got a ways to go, and that's with his arch nemesis, where he comes into play and kind of basically gives him a lesson and like, hey, you're not that guy, man. Right? And so then he's like, oh, okay then. Well, now that I realize I'm not, I got to pick up my game somehow. And so that's kind of that shift, you see in the first issue.
Mm. So inevitably, the foreman
Hmm.
starts into this, I guess, if we're talking about corruption, this corrupted organization
Yeah.
called Halo. And
Well,
I'm sorry. he
No, no, no.
accepted
Go
the
ahead.
proposal. He accepted the
Yeah,
proposal from
yeah,
Halo,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he became the leader of the Union.
Correct.
So, what exactly is the difference between the two, and as far as the organizational terms?
Yeah. So, I guess the best reference I can use is like VOT and the Seven.
Okay, got it.
In the Seven. So the Union, I mean the Halo, which I actually, it was funny. I was talking to my wife, and I'm like, I already forgot what Halo stood for.
Mm,
Um, and so it stands for Heroic Assets and Logistics Operations.
okay.
So it's yeah, like I said, the VOD and the Seven, from the boys. Uh, the Halo is government associated. It's a a department from the formed by the government, government associated. It's a branch, you can say. The Union is like the poster boy, the poster child of the of Halo, and they go out and save the world and do what the regular agents and military can't, right?
Yep.
That's kind of where that came to be, and kind of how I wanted that association between the two to be.
Mm. So, um, pretty much there's also another scale to this.
Oh
Um,
yeah, for
as
sure.
far as like how you've written this, because there is the interesting other two characters of the Polaris siblings,
Yeah.
Ray and Mark.
Yes.
So you also bring up another kind of emotion that's pretty much at play,
Yeah.
or better yet, another singular dynamic, and one is particularly from the aspect of two siblings that happen to be, of course, privileged
Yeah.
and wanting to be superheroes themselves, but find an easier route than what Chris is going to go through because he pretty much has to come up from the bottom. For one, we already talked about it. He didn't grow up with any type of power set. His
Nope.
father, of course, growing up, has that change of heart to where he's like jumping into a whole different underworld built with corruption.
Yeah.
Sister being spoiled, of course, had her own little early beginnings, regardless of the fact of how she was played with her father.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, it's almost like you're telling two stories at once.
Yeah. There will be more for sure to come, but yeah. Yes.
So
Definitely.
if you can explain the Polaris siblings and
Yeah.
how they were pretty much put on,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure the way it's going to be described is fairly easy.
Mhm.
But it's also a different dynamic, and I'm sure how you're going to basically formulate this in the story
Mhm.
is the act of superheroes with privilege versus the ones that pretty much had to start from the bottom.
Yeah. So that does come into play, but I will say that it is not a heavy theme at first.
Okay.
Um, because of the transition that Chris Vibrant had to take after the events that happened early in his childhood, he's his life is completely different now. He's with his grandparents,
Hmm.
and they're not wealthy, but they're well off. They're comfortable. And so he's okay in that sense. But when it comes to the Polaris siblings, right? Yeah, they were born in wealth, had it easy, had all the, money and resources at their disposal to begin with. But here's the thing that I also have, that I'm playing with those two is, despite that, the fact that they were kind of born with all this privilege, it's not as it seems on the surface underneath
Okay.
with those two, right? So kind of a bit of a backstory for those two. They were basically raised by their butler.
Hmm.
So their parents were actually out running their company. And so because of that, the parents were never really there to raise, uh, to love and all that with their children.
Okay.
And so they themselves actually had to kind of work from nothing almost, right? But right with the added privilege of the wealth and everything.
Yep.
So it definitely did come easy to them. Easier, I would say, than it did to Chris slash Vibrant. But they themselves are also kind of facing a bit of a struggle, not financially, or I guess the one percenters, right?
Yeah.
But definitely on an emotional scale. And that's another thing I wanted to play with too was uh, it's kind of like with Foreman was how do you mess with somebody who already has everything? There's another way you can attack that person's being or character to um, take advantage of their weakness, just take advantage of them in general, and give yourself an advantage
Hmm.
when somebody else is in a better position than you are. And so I
Yeah.
thought, okay, well, the family dynamic again with those two, and those two being siblings, right? One, so techno geek Rae Polaris, she doesn't actually have any powers.
Right.
She has all her tech, so she's just a genius. She's good at welding, coding, and everything, right? Atlas, Mark, he has the ability to basically think of like Bane without the venom.
Okay.
So he has the ability to kind of bulk up, his muscles grow, and he gets in this muscle mass form, and his strength grows to immeasurable heights. Um, so with that, he also has to take on the big brother role, right? You have a
Gotcha.
sister who has no powers, is having to try and prove herself, and then also, he's the brother part, and then the no powers part. It really comes into play when it comes to Mark and his character.
Mm.
And he's very, very caring for his sister, and that's another thing that I took from my personal experience as well is despite my sister's advantages compared to me, right? When we were younger, I still was her older brother, and I always cared for her, immensely, and I always took it seriously to really take care of her and make sure that she was safe, protected, whatever. Um, because there were times where our parents weren't, there where I had to be the one to be the parent for the both of us at the time.
Right.
So I kind of put that into play with those two as well. Um, so yeah, that's really kind of the summary of it. Um, a little messy summary, but
Mhm.
I hope you get the gist of it.
Ah, I
Yeah,
get it. I
yeah.
get it. Now, we talk about this one particular traumatic incident, and I'm more so thinking that it evolves around the father, the foreman.
Mhm. Yes.
But yet the dynamic between Chris and Sarah, as opposed to like Chris now gaining
Mhm.
some type of power set,
Yeah.
and Sarah, of course, gaining an identity as
Mhm.
spoiled.
Yeah.
Um, Instantly, what does this traumatic incident do to the relationship between Chris and Sarah?
I'm actually really glad you asked that because like another thing I was talking to my wife was she's like, I don't think Spoil has really gotten much development yet. Um and there's a reason for that.
Hmm.
And the reason why and the relationship between Spoil and Sarah, Chris and Vibrant at the in present day versus, back in the day,
Yeah.
back in the past, their relationship, I mean, I guess it's a bit of a spoiler. um
No
but
pun. No pun intended.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But Sarah does not at the moment know that she has a brother. Yeah.
Okay.
So in the first issue, you will see the, you know, um, Foreman or Nchuk accept the offer from Halo finally.
Hmm.
After however many times they've tried to recruit him. Um, after, the traumatic experience that he faced,
Yeah.
right? And then that corrupts him. Um, but with that, one of the requirements he asked for with joining was ensuring that his daughter was on that team
Mm.
because, like I was saying earlier, it with how successful she was from the beginning,
Yeah.
that's like a part of Foreman he sees her as like it's his victory. So, uh, kind of like my hero with Endeavor and Todoroki.
Hmm.
Endeavor sees Todoroki as his win. After all those attempts, all the children he's had before,
Right.
Todoroki is the first one and only one who can control both of the elements successfully. Um, and he takes that as a part of himself. He doesn't see that as his child. He sees that as a part of his own win.
Hmm.
And that is how Foreman sees Spoil. And so with that, he took some measures to make sure that that isn't messed with. And I'll leave it at
Wow.
that. I'll leave it at
Now, cover art has a differentiated way of taking a particular storyline and trying to loosely base it on like a possible cliffhanger. There's
Yeah, yeah.
this one particular frame, and I'm guessing it's cover art
Mhm.
of Invulnerable with like a impaled.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah,
So I was looking at that and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
I know I'm reading the same book. And I
Yeah,
know
yeah.
cover art tends to like be like, hey, this is like the means of reading the story because of a particular panel or particular cover or anything like that. But when I
Mhm.
saw that, I thought that the ultimate traumatic incident revolved around the death of the foreman, but or better yet, Invulnerable.
Yeah.
In onus to become the foreman.
Mhm.
But yet it takes another turn.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
The turn.
Yes.
So, like I was saying, with the man who has everything, like
Mhm.
all powerful number one hero, I needed to find a way. He needs to be beat.
Yeah.
I personally think it you can't have all these characters from the jump just be the most powerful thing ever, and then they're having to face all these like extremely powerful beings, monsters, aliens, gods, whatever,
Hmm.
like Dragon Ball Z almost, right? It's like they're already extremely powerful, and then they have to keep getting more and more powerful, and then it's like the previous form just is obsolete at that point now because they have to get to the next form. But it's like,
Yeah.
what about that last form? Like, are we not gonna work on that a little bit more? We're not going to see it. So I like to kind of build that up. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was
Came
about
to
to
from
say. Are we living in the world of like in this particular world? Because you're bringing up a lot of anime references.
yeah, yeah.
Does everybody have a particular power set, and yet progressively over time, some people are born with it. Some people have chosen to basically boost themselves over periods of time, depending on the battles that they've gotten into, depending on the life experiences. They start to grow stronger and learn more.
Yes. Yeah. So definitely leaning more into that, where some are born with, some are augmented,
Okay.
some are um forced into that life.
Hmm.
That's another thing too, because there will be definitely some characters where you'll see what's that saying where it's like the thug life didn't I didn't choose the thug life
Oh,
chose
it
me.
chose me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So that's how it is with some of these characters. The superhero life or the super powered life chose them and they didn't choose it. So yeah, that the universe of Vibrant is definitely, it's all around. Not everybody has powers. Not everybody has a power that is just um, turned on or off. Some powers are where you physically see them and they can't turn that portion off, right? And then with that comes other abilities, right? Like maybe like a horn or a tail or whatever the case may be, right?
Got you.
So yeah, that's definitely the type of universe for Vibrant. But the turn, going back to the turn of Invulnerable to Foreman, I wanted to find some sort of way to really bring somebody who's up there down. And then now, because I feel like when you've been at the bottom and you get to the top
Hmm.
and then you lose that position and you go back to the bottom again, you're going to do anything to get that high again. You're going to do anything to get back up there.
Right.
And that is where I put Foreman after that experience, right? With the Dawn. He is now like, okay, I lost it all. Like, what just happened? I was up here. Now I'm all the way down here
Right.
because of this one guy.
Hmm.
So he definitely puts a lot of fault on that one guy. And I mean, it is his fault. So that's where the turn kind of happens. I mean, where he's, like you were saying, impaled,
Hmm.
that's just like an average Tuesday for Invulnerable, we'll say, right?
Okay.
um, and so I mean, definitely a big experience, right? Like it wasn't like, something to scoff at, but it definitely was something where he's gonna be like, okay, my life is completely over. He's
Mhm.
gonna the mindset he will have will be, all right, how do I make sure this never happens again?
Right.
And then that's kind of, so that mindset happens right after that. And the scene that happens after, you're talking about where he gets impaled, where he's in the, hospital speaking with Halo and whatever. Um, that's where that turn during that discussion, I want to say, is where that turn starts to, like, the switch is hit.
Got you.
Yeah.
So
So
now, so of course we talked about the majority of the team aspect, the family aspect, so on and so forth. There has to be, of course, a conversation about this antagonist. This, if
yeah,
you want to call him the big bad, the
yeah,
Don.
yeah.
Uh, this well, not necessarily describe him, but better yet, the overall atmospheric personality figure of this particular antagonist. How does he formulate, or better yet, stay in the minds of a lot of these characters in order for them to fear him?
Oh yeah. So, like any really good big bad, they're always, they don't stop,
Mhm.
right? They're always working, doing something behind the scenes.
Yeah,
And also, and they have their MOs, or some who are proud, they make sure it's them.
yeah.
And so, despite the fact that maybe some big bads try to be discreet and not show their hand, others will boast and say, "Hey, this is me. All of this that's going on,
Right.
all that you're going through is because of me." And so that's where the Don comes in, and he kind of takes that approach. Like we saw with him, his encounter with Invulnerable.
Hmm.
He lets him know, like, hey buddy, like, you're not the big bad, it's I am. I want you to know I'm the one who's besting you.
Yeah.
uh
It's
and
almost like
so,
the "you're not that guy" moment.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so that's the type of big bad that the Don is he wants you to know it's him. I mean, he wants to make sure that you're not getting in his way, because he still has a job to get done,
Mhm.
and goals to meet. But he wants you to know that it's him at the end of the day.
Now, was it purposeful that you made him in the design that you made him? Because he doesn't look menacing. Like he's pretty much like a kingpin figure. He wears real nice suits, bald head, scoffed ass beard.
Yeah.
Like got the tinted glasses and everything. Like nice shoes.
Hmm.
He's living in a world of superheroes,
Yeah.
and he's dressing to the nines.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like, was that purposeful that you like created him as that, or is better yet, am I not seeing a different side of him?
No, no. You're right. It was intentional. We wanted to go, well, it was a bit of, like, kind of playing around with it, a bit on the artist, a bit on me. And by that I mean the artist, when I was giving him my description of the Don, when we were going over the creation and the character concept, he thought we were going like a Lex Luthor route,
Yeah.
right? But I was going kind of more Kingpin route,
Hmm.
um, where he just looks like some big tubby dude, but what nobody really knows is that's all muscle he's packing.
Yeah.
He looks big and, hefty, but
Mhm.
he's muscular. That's all muscle. And people underestimate him because of that. And that is where I wanted that to come into play. So then that's kind of how we settled on with that final design of the Dawn. Is it's a way to have everybody underestimate him.
Got you.
It's a mind game.
Yeah.
And so if he goes in there looking big and brutish, he he's playing, he's showing his cards.
Yeah.
But if he's dressed in the nine, when people are wearing capes and whatnot, they're going to be like, wait, hold on,
That's
is
what
this the
like,
right guy?
yeah, like that's what I'm taking on.
That's exactly. So then they're going to be like, oh, okay, then this is going to be a piece of cake, but it's not. And so that's where yeah, it was purposeful,
Yeah,
basically.
because I was saying from the reader's perspective,
Yeah, you're like,
that's what
this
I
guy's
got.
nothing.
Like,
Yeah.
doesn't
Hmm.
look menacing, but I see where it's at now. Obviously, this title is basically being put out through Wise Acre Comics.
Yeah.
I've had the chance, of course, to have Frederick Littles on the show a bunch of times. And I know him as being like a stalwart, nonstop creator. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
what he's basically been doing like the past 3 years.
Mhm.
I don't see a lot of creators doing that.
Oh yeah.
And now, taking into the fold a lot of other uh, new young
Mhm. Yeah.
creators. What basically made you want to take a step into joining Wise Acre?
That's a good question. I will admit, when I first started, I kind of thought I'm going to do this by myself as a self-publisher. And what actually got me to submit proposals to join an indie publisher, um, in general, was I went to a local comic book shop and I'm like, hey, I was messing around. I'm like, hey, I have a friend who's creating a comic book. How would they be able to get their comic books sold in your store? And they're like, oh, well, you would just have to tell them they have to go through a distributor. And I'm like, oh, well, how do they go through that? And they said, typically through a publisher. So I
Hmm.
thought, oh, okay, interesting. So then that same night, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to get my comic books in this store at all. I started looking for publishers, and what was really funny about this and almost ironic was I had been following Wise Acre for some time. I'd been following Fred
Yeah.
on Instagram, and it was funny because when I first self-released Vibrant, I sent him an Instagram message with the link saying, "Hey, I just released my comic. Check it out." And then I remember going through Instagram and I'm like, oh, okay, the local comic book shop gave me some indie publishers that they knew about. So
Yeah.
then I thought, well, I've heard of some on Instagram as well. Let me look through there. And I'm like, oh, there's Godhood, and I'm still looking, and I'm like, wait a second, hold on. Wise Acre? Wait. So I'm like, hold on. I've been following Wise Acre this entire time, and I didn't fully realize that they were also a publisher, not just a creator.
Right.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, then perfect. So I submitted to Fred to Wiseacre, and I'm like, yeah, I have to join this, and especially the message that he's trying to deliver,
Mhm.
or that I read on his website when I was submitting, was that it focuses on um you know characters of color, main characters of color,
Yep.
and that's the realm I want to be in, the realm I need to be in, because that's going to be the environment that will understand my story. Because if I'm just trying to go into this, that, or whatever publisher, they're not going to fully understand.
Hmm.
They'll probably do what they're doing with all the current movies. Like, I mean, heck, even Ironheart just came out, right? The trailer.
Yeah.
Everybody's hating on that for one specific thing. And for me, it's ridiculous, disappointing. Because
Hmm.
it's like, first of all, if you read your comics, you would know that you saying this, he's, Riri Williams is a whatever version of Tony Stark, you're completely wrong.
Right.
That's not all what she is. Um, there's way more to her character, but the only thing that they see is what they see, right?
Yeah.
And so,
They're looking at a mech suit just like
yeah.
Iron Man. They're not understanding that she created that in the MIT contest. That basically she was garnered under the tutelage
Mhm.
of Tony Stark. I mean, it's a whole nother thing, and it's probably not going to happen in the show, but but I get what you're saying. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't know.
yeah, exactly. They think it. I mean, I don't know. Well, I'm not a big fan of getting into politics, but I saw one post. I'll just say this and get it over with. Saw one post that said, Ironheart is the DEI replacement of Iron Man. And exactly,
Right.
exactly. And I'm reading that, and I'm like, okay, these people don't understand. They
Yeah.
don't know what in the world they're talking about. So, and that's the realm I didn't want to have Vibrant in.
Right.
Because if I had released Vibrant in that, nobody would understand. Oh, you're just creating another black character trying to shove it down our throats, oh, he woke with this or whatever, right?
Yep.
But in a realm that understands, that is how the message will truly get across. Because if they're not having these walls up of, whatever you want to call it, then they won't see the actual message or be able to feel it. But when their eyes are open and looking for that, they will find it and see it. So that was one of the bigger reasons why submitted to Wise Acre and why I wanted to join them.
Now, one of the big things that I know Fred likes to do is give everybody he's very quick with his concepts. So
Yeah.
if a
Oh
concept is
yeah.
particularly ready, and I'm talking about maybe it's the first 8 pages,
Mhm.
he'll start to release things on Global Comics
Yeah.
instantly just to get eyes on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know he may move faster than a lot of folks, but how do you feel about that type of business model towards comics? To have sneak previews, it was like I might not even have the full comic done. I might be like 32 pages, maybe 22, 26. But if I got the first 8 and that looks real good, I'm throwing the sneak peek right out there.
Yeah. I greatly appreciate that business model because um one thing that I wish I knew going into comic books or creating it at least um was the marketing aspect.
Mm-hmm.
People think that when it comes to creating a comic book, you're just writing it, either drawing it yourself or giving it to an artist, getting it lettered, colored, whatever. Once this, like the physical copy, digital, whatever you want, is done,
Yeah,
that's not it. Because I can have this and then say, hey guys, this is for sale. All I'm gonna hear are crickets
exactly.
because nothing I've done nothing ahead of time to show that, hey, I have this product. And that's where I think Fred does a great job, especially on releasing the previews on Global Comics, is because it gives people a look at it and opens their eyes and they're like, oh, whoa, what's this now?
Mm-hmm.
And now you got a whole bunch of people who are interested in it. And then once like the Kickstarter or whatever opens up, then they're like, oh yes, I remember reading the preview. I loved it. Now I'm going to jump at it.
Right.
This is my chance to finally get to fully immerse myself in that story after however long of reading it so many times on Global Comics, right? So I appreciate that. I think it's I think what Fred does is great. I mean, I I feel like I annoy him with how many times I thank him. I'm like, hey, it's been a roller coaster for me being in this, in this phase of the comic book creating and my
Mhm.
life. And so there are times where I'm like at the high, and
Mhm.
then for sure at the low.
Oh yeah.
And um, looking back at like the self-published version, and then looking now, because we just got like I mean, I think it's 99.9% done, the new updated version of Vibrant issue 1. And I'm like, wow. Like this looks like something I would for sure see at the store and pick up myself. This doesn't look like an amateur thing, which is what it really looked like from when I first released it. And Fred has not only just opened my eyes and mentored me and taught me, but he's really helped me out. I mean, he gave me a chance, to prove myself. And there are so many times where I'm like, I think I'm about to quit. I'm like, yeah, okay, like I guess this isn't for me.
Right.
But Fred, he's good at being like, hey, this is gonna happen. Like, it's all right.
Yeah. Whether you like
um,
it or not.
yeah, exactly. And sometimes you really do need that like taste of reality,
Mhm.
um, because I think it helps you grow. Me specifically, right? I've been able to really experience quite a bit, from the start to now, and I'm nowhere near done. And it's been great. The fact that having the resources that Fred provides, the help he provides, the
Mhm.
team we have, the creators we have, it's crazy. And when I first joined, I remember being like, yeah, I don't know how the heck I'm in here because all of these creators have great work.
Mhm.
Uh, but then I started to think, well, Fred isn't, he's not stupid. He knows what he's doing. He for sure knows what he's doing. He's created such great work and brought in such great creators that maybe he didn't make a stupid decision bringing me into the fold, right? So then I had to kind of like talk myself down and think, okay, and tell myself, all right, maybe I actually have something that I can put out to the world, and Fred has really showed me that, and so I really appreciate what he's done, and his business model I think is great. Like I mean, uh, we have our own like updates and whatnot we get, and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, whoa, that like, well, we're already there. Like that's crazy. Okay, we got this. Oh,
Yep.
okay, cool. Like, this is happening. Oh, wow. Well, all right. So yeah, I
Now,
appreciate the speed.
now the creative team, if you could shout
Yeah.
them out.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm bad at remembering, and there's been quite a lot.
Okay.
It comes to the creators, oof, there's
But what is it? You had Frederick Littles, you had Fred editing.
oh yes, oh I'm sorry, yeah, the creative team for Vibrant, yes, I'm
For
sorry.
Vibrant.
Yes, so yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, sorry. So the creative team, so Frederick Littles, he did edit, and then obviously he's the publisher, myself as the writer, and then the letterist. I'm gonna end with the artist because I got a good amount of stuff to say about him, but the letterist, Letter Squids,
Mhm.
amazing job. That was like one of the biggest things I criticisms I got when I first self-published was um that the lettering it wasn't there.
It's a
And
whole
I
nother
remember,
art form, man.
oh my gosh, you have no idea. And that's the funny thing was I had my artist do that. I had my artist do the lettering from the beginning. And I'm like, oh, and I remember looking at it too and thinking, this kind of doesn't look like other comics.
Mhm.
But I kind of like ignored it because I'm like, I have something. I just want to put it out.
Yeah.
So I kind of like overlooked it and I thought, whatever. I think I might have even mentioned it, and he was like, well, this and that or whatever. And I was like, I guess you're right because there are times where I let him kind of my artist take the wheel
Yep.
when it comes to making some like decisions on panel layout, the art, the way it looks, right? Because he's done a good job, I think, at bringing it to life visually. But yeah, so Letter Squids, crazy good job. I mean, I can't wait to get like all the variant covers in hand, and I'm just so excited. I'm so excited.
Mhm.
I was so nervous at first. But yeah, so Letter Squids did a great job, and then my artist. Oh man, I owe this guy everything. Um, in fact, I actually just got so we're working on trading cards for the Kickstarter.
Okay.
Uh, and he just provided me the mock-ups for the art. And I'm releasing the characters that we are introduced in issue one, which we have Techno Geek, Atlas, Spoil, Foreman, and Vibrant.
Mhm.
And they look amazing. Um, he's done great work. I can't praise him enough. Um, and he's willing to work with me too. So I feel like art is probably one of the more expensive things when it comes to creating a comic book. One
True.
of obviously there's so many other things that that cost money when it comes to creating a comic book, but I think art because that's like the majority of the book. I think, at least in my opinion. And so, but he's willing to work with me. He's great. I mean, and and um, yeah,
What's his
it's actually
What's his name?
sorry, guys. His name is Ekene Nchuk. So that's the funny thing is too is he himself is also Nigerian.
Okay.
And so we kind of connected on that as well. So I'm half Nigerian, half Puerto Rican,
Okay.
which Vibrant is also half Nigerian, half Puerto Rican. So that's why the Nchuk, the Okafor, all that.
Mhm.
And funny enough, the way we met, go on this quick tangent and my praise there with my artist. I did a bit of cosplaying.
Mhm.
And so I think he saw one of my posts and he was like, hey, can I do a digital art piece of your cosplay? I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Did the piece. It looked pretty cool. It looked good. And I'm like, oh, awesome, dope, right? Just kind of went on with my day. I mean, it was good. It wasn't like bad or anything. I'm
Right.
not trying to say that, but just kind of like, all right, that's done. Um, then it came the time where I was starting to write, and I was trying to do everything myself when it came to comics. Creating the comic book was writing, the drawing. In fact, I tried to do animation. I tried to start with animation, and I
Right.
thought, yeah, this isn't gonna work. So then I asked myself, like, where did things start when it came to animation? Comic books.
Yeah.
Let me create the comic book. So then I started taking like all these courses, watching videos on drawing and whatnot. I'm like, yeah, this isn't gonna work. So then I reached back out to him, and I'm like, hey, have you done comics? I think he'd done it like once or twice, but it looked pretty good, the samples he showed me. So I'm like, hey, I have this idea, here's the character that I designed. What do you think you could do with it? He's like, oh, I got you easy. So he gave me this one, like, mock up of it. And I thought, oh, this is actually really good. All right. And then we kept on working and I'm like, all right, well, here are the other characters I've designed. show me what you could do with these. And it kind of just went from there. And I feel like his craft has really been, he's really perfecting it. Um, like again, when he showed me the trading card mock-ups today, I'm like, man, this guy too good. But yeah, so that's the team. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Vibrant as a complete arc. We're in this first issue. How many issues are we going?
So that's the thing is I'm not 100% on how many issues exactly.
Okay.
I do know how many arcs I'd like to go with so far.
Okay.
Um, I have 3 arcs, and this is just the bare bone beginning, the surface level beginning of the first arc. And I have so many things planned for this. I have like up to issue 7, maybe the outline for that written out. Um, but I do have the arcs also, the outlines for the arcs as well written out, and kind of the things that like the plot twists or the like the breadcrumbs I've been laying out or I have that I will try to lay out through the first arc
Yeah.
and then come to fruition in the second arc, and then it's like, oh damn, no way. So that's then you'd have to go back to the other issues, right? And be
Yep.
like, oh, oh, this makes total sense. Now we get this. Oh my gosh, right? Sort of thing. So yeah, I have quite a bit planned for it. In fact, I even have another story that's within the same universe as Vibrant, but different plot, different character. But I find it as another way of telling the story of Vibrant, but through like a different lens.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Hey, so Vibrant One, I believe right now has how many days left on Kickstarter?
I think 10.
10. So you still
Yeah.
got a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And you got a few more stretch goals that you basically have that are attainable.
Yeah, yeah. I would say so. I mean, we were closer, I think like last week.
Yes.
Couple, like as it happens with Kickstarter, you have people who back, remove their backs or pledges, whatever. But yeah, I think we're pretty we're doing good. We're on a good track, I'd say.
All right. Well, Emeka, I appreciate you doing this with me. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, was it Vibrant issue one?
Hmm.
Of course, 10 days left on Kickstarter, through Wise Acre Comics.
Hmm.
For anybody that's pretty much out there, as far as hasn't had a chance to get their hands on this, the campaign is going to be up for the next couple of days, actually for the next week or so. So do your due diligence, of course, getting your hands on that while it's out there. And when should we more so expect the books to homes?
Um, that would depend, especially on the other, the tiers that we're backed or pledged to. Because we have like the
Hmm?
trading cards, we have the custom comic book stands, the comic capsules, um, and then of course the printing of the books. So it would take some time, definitely some time. I think we had a fulfillment. Uh, I actually have it open. Let me see if I can pull it up really quick. Um, think we were looking at August.
Okay, so probably by like the end of the summer.
Yeah.
All right. All right, sir. So, Emeka Nkwo for Vibrant. Of course, everybody here at the Faqs Project, thank everybody for joining me. Get your hands on Vibrant issue one right now for the next 10 days. All right. So, for everybody here at the Faqs Project, Emeka Nkwo, James Grimm, S Facts Voice, we will see you guys next time. We are out.